Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bold and Beautiful podcast. I'm your host, Amanda, and to be honest, I chose this week's title, The Memorial, because basically that's what the whole week consisted of, Beth's memorial. Very sad stuff this week, guys. For me, this week was very hard to watch. It was difficult for me to get through this week. Someone who was very special to me passed away, and he was only 19 years old. So it has really put things into perspective. Life is so short and definitely unexpected. I would love to say, okay, enough with the sadness, let's move on. But to be honest, this whole week, every single episode was sad. I cried a lot, I'm not gonna lie. So I'll just say, let's move on to the news. Next week, 30 Rock actress Katrina Bowden joins the cast as Florence, a mysterious woman from Reese's past. Also, did anyone out there catch the closing credits of the show Friday? It said Baby Kelly and underneath Zoe Pennington and Chloe Tepperman. Underneath that, it said Baby Phoebe, Rosalind Ayoun, and Isabella D. Armas. So I'm gonna assume that Steffi adopts a baby and names it Phoebe. So that's all the news I have for this week. I apologize for the sad content. I cannot help that. So enough with the chit chat. Let's get to the recap. So that brings us into Monday, January the 7th. The show opens at the clinic on Catalina Island with Hope and Liam. And they're discussing Beth and how they will never get to hold her or see her again. And it's very, very sad. Then, a few minutes later, the door opens and it's Brooke, Ridge, and Bill. They finally made it. And Hope wants to talk to Brooke alone. So all the guys leave and they go outside into the waiting area. And Hope tells Brooke that Beth is gone. And of course, Brooke is very upset. And she does what any mom would do. She just holds her while she cries. Really, that's all you can do. After Hope calms down a little bit, she explains everything to Brooke. And the sad thing to me is that Hope is blaming herself. And Brooke tries to convince her that it's not her fault. And I'm like, while I'm watching it, I'm like, I can't take this. Hope truly thinks this is her fault. And to be honest, I just want to punch the good doctor in the face. Meanwhile, outside in the waiting area, Liam tells Bill and Ridge what happened. And Bill grabs Liam and hugs him, and poor Liam just starts sobbing. It's so sad. And Ridge is also very upset. So once Liam calms down, he starts getting really angry. And I know from experience that this definitely is normal, because when I lost my mom, I was so angry about it. So he gets really angry and he wants to know why this would happen to someone like Hope. And he wants answers. And Bill gives Liam some advice. And I think it's good advice. Basically, he tells him to not let this pull him and Hope apart. That he needs to stay by her side and go through this with her and make this tragedy bring them closer together. And then Dr. Reese walks up with some paperwork and Liam just loses it. He yells at him, "Why? What happened? Everything was fine. You're the doctor. Explain what happened to my little girl." So Reese explains to them exactly what happened, his whole story. He explains all that, and he's being very nice and caring. And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm just hating him more. I just don't buy it. So the guys go back into the room to see Hope and Brooke. And Hope wants to go home. So Liam assures her that they will make it through this together no matter what. And then he wants to say something to the baby. So they all join hands and Liam gives a very sad speech. he talks to Beth like she's there in the room with them. And then Hope speaks, and basically they both say how much they love Beth and how much they will miss her. And they know she will always be with them and watching over them. Liam, Hope, and Brooke are all in tears. Ridge and Bill are clearly upset, and that's how Monday ends. This is too much sadness. It's just too much. So that brings us into Tuesday, January the 8th. The show opens at Steffi's house with Steffi and Taylor. They are waiting to hear from Liam about the baby. In a few minutes, they hear a knock on the door, and it's Ridge. So Ridge has stopped by to tell Steffi and Taylor the bad news. And they are both so sad for Hope and Liam. Steffi wants to go see Hope, but Ridge tells her she should probably not go today. And after Ridge holds Kelly for a little while, he leaves to go back home to check on Brooke. Now we head over to the cabin with Hope, Liam, and Brooke. They have just arrived home, and there's baby stuff everywhere. So it is very hard for Hope and Liam to walk back into that cabin. Poor Hope. She's definitely in shock. Liam and Brooke are both worried about her, and Liam wants to help, but he has no idea what to do. Poor Hope. So Brooke decides that she is going to go ahead and go home to the house to call Bridget and Rick and to get dinner for Hope and Liam. So she leaves. Now we head over to Forrester Creations downstairs in the showroom with Zoe and Reese. Reese is blaming himself for Beth's death. But we all know that he is just feeling guilty for stealing their baby. Or at least that's what I think. So Reese tells Zoe that he feels horrible and that no one knows the whole story. We learn that he actually sent his staff home because of the bad weather when he was on the island, which he failed to mention that little detail to Hope and Liam. So then Reese gets all weird, which is kind of freaking Zoe out, and he says, look, you should ask Xander to move in with you because I don't want you to be alone. So he's acting weird, and Zoe's really worried about him. And she says, it's a little too soon for that, Dad. Like, why are you being weird? So he gives her a hug and he says, don't worry about me, I'll be fine. And as he's leaving, he runs into the Vegas guy in the parking lot. And Reese warns him that he better stay away from his daughter. But Vegas does not like being warned. That is obvious. He grabs Reese, and Reese is freaking out. And then Reese assures Vegas that he will have Mr. Thigpen's money next week. Now we head over to Brooke's house upstairs in the bedroom with Brooke and Ridge. And Ridge fills Brooke in on how it went with Taylor and Steffi and how they're very, very heartbroken about it. And Brooke, she's just so sad. And she wants to help Hope, but she doesn't know what to do. And she starts crying. And Ridge wants to be there for her, so he does the only thing that he can do. He just holds her while she cries. And wow. Catherine Kelly Lang is such a great actress. Every time that she cries, I cry. Now we head back over to the cabin. And now that Hope and Liam are alone, they're discussing Beth again, and they agree that maybe Beth was just too good for this world. And then they have another crying session while they just hold each other. But they do talk about how they are both so happy that they have each other and they're not going through this alone. And that's how Tuesday ends. So far, this is bringing Hope and Liam together. I really hope it stays that way. I hope this doesn't tear them apart. Because that would just be more sadness on top of more sadness. So that brings us into Wednesday, January the 9th. The show opens at Steffi's house with Steffi and Taylor. And we learn that Eric is having a memorial at his house for baby Beth. And Brooke actually invited Taylor, which shocked both of them, Steffi and Taylor, and it shocked me too, honestly. So Amelia finally arrives, and Steffi and Taylor head over to Eric's house. Now we head over to Forrester Creations in the showroom with Zoe and Xander. They are getting ready to go to the memorial at Eric's. And Zoe confides in Xander that she is really worried about her dad because he is not dealing with this whole thing well. And as they are leaving, Zoe gets a call from Reese, and he is just double checking that she is okay. And now Zoe really is worried because her dad is being really weird. Now we head over to Reese's apartment, and he gets another threatening text with Zoe's photo, letting him know that his time is up and he better pay if he wants his pretty daughter safe. Now we head over to Eric's house to the memorial, and Hope, Liam, and Brooke have arrived. Hope doesn't really think that she is up to facing everyone yet, but Liam and Brooke convince her that it will be good for her because she needs to be with family. Then Eric and Quinn join them, and Eric lets them know that everyone will be arriving soon. And of course, Eric and Quinn are very sad and sorry for their loss. The guests start to arrive. Katie and Donna come in first, and they have brought a drawing to Hope and Liam that Will made for them, and it's so sweet. It's a picture of an angel holding baby Kelly. It's very, very sweet, and it makes Hope cry. Maya arrives. Then Wyatt and Sally and Bill arrive. Pam is there also, and of course, she's serving food. And it really means a lot to Liam that Wyatt and Bill are there for him. Everyone is just so sad and shocked that this happened, especially to Hope and Liam. So we learn that Rick feels horrible and was going to catch a flight out, but Hope insisted that he should stay in Paris. Then Liam assures Hope that they will see Rick soon, very soon, once work isn't crazy anymore. And then we see Maya, who is standing to the side, and she's listening to their conversation. And she has a really strange look on her face. And to be honest, I have no idea what it means yet. I'm sure it has something to do with Rick, but I have no idea what. So finally, Steffi and Taylor arrive. Steffi admits that she feels guilty for calling Liam that day, and she should have just taken Kelly to the doctor herself. And then she assures Hope that she will be there for her and she will help her in any way that she can. Xander and Zoe arrive, and then Taylor gets a phone call from Reese. And he wants to see her. So she tells him that she's at the memorial right now, and that she will call him as soon as she leaves. Then Brooke walks over to talk to Taylor. And she tells Taylor, thank you for talking to Hope. Because earlier, Taylor gave Hope some information about a support group that might help. And she emailed her info for a good grief counselor. And I thought that was very nice of Taylor to do. So this is very rare to see Brooke and Taylor getting along and being nice to each other. It's a nice change of pace, honestly. So then Liam stands up to say a few words, and he thanks everyone for being there, and he wishes Beth could have met all of them. And then he breaks down and can't say anything else. So Hope tries to say a few words. And she gives the most beautiful speech. Honestly, everyone in the room was in tears. And that's how Wednesday ends. Annika, her performance was amazing. There was not a dry eye in that room. So that brings us into Thursday, January the 10th. I'm going to be honest with you guys. This day was hard for me to do my notes and hard for me to watch because of what was going on in my own personal life, but also because basically the whole day Thursday was the memorial. So it was people coming through and saying the same things over and over. So the show opens at Eric's house at their memorial. Everyone is really sad. Donna and Katie make sure they talk to Brooke because they want her to know that they are there for her no matter what she needs. Then we go across the room and Steffi is being very, very sweet to Hope. She hugs her and tells her that she is there for her if she needs anything, even if it's just a walk on the beach. And Hope says that she just might take her up on that offer. Then, on the other side of the room, Brooke thanks Zoe for coming, and she tells her that she definitely wants to have a conversation with her dad, Reese, because she does not understand what happened that night. Then, Steffi walks up to Liam, and she wants him to know that she's there for him, and that he can spend as much time with Kelly as he wants. And then Liam confides in her that he feels blindsided. That in this whole time, he never thought this could happen. When he planned for things and calculated things in his mind, he had this whole idea of how everything would go. And he just feels completely blindsided by the whole thing. Steffi just feels horrible for him. A little while later, the guests start to leave. Before Taylor leaves, she calls Reese, and she agrees to meet him at his apartment. So Taylor goes over to Hope and Brooke and Liam, and she says her goodbyes to everyone. And Brooke thanks her for coming. And then, very unexpectedly, they hug, and they actually feel for each other in that moment. You could see that they actually cared for each other in that moment at least. And it was cool to see. Wyatt and Sally say their goodbyes, and it's very sweet. Maya says her goodbyes, and she also tells them that Rick is very torn up over this whole thing. And Hope starts crying again. Zoe tells Xander that she is really worried about her dad because he is acting strange, and she feels like everyone is blaming him. So most of the guests are gone now. There's only a few people left. And Liam tells Hope that Beth is still with them, and she will always be. She will always be with them, watching out for them, watching over them. And poor Hope, she starts crying again because she just wants to know why. That is the question, isn't it? Why? I would like to know the answer to that also. In case you missed last week's episode, I am not happy at all about this storyline. Now we head over to Reese's apartment, and Taylor has just arrived. She tells Reese that she knows he is having a hard time with what happened, and that she is there for him. Then Reese starts giving this speech about how that night changed him, and he feels so horrible for Hope and Liam, and how he is just so sad. And of course, Taylor just feels horrible for him, and she assures him that she will be his friend and she will be there for him, and that it's not his fault. And they hug, and that's how Thursday ends. So that brings us into Friday, January the 11th. The show opens at Eric's house with Brooke, Ridge, and Bill. Liam and Hope have left and went to the cabin to be alone. They discuss how much they are worried about Hope and Liam, and how, as parents, they wish they could do more. And then Ridge decides that now is the time for him and Bill to have a conversation, to work things out for their families, even though they don't like each other. So Ridge begins by saying that Brooke is his wife, till death do us part, and that is not going to change. Then Ridge continues. He says that he doesn't buy Bill's a changed man. He thinks it's a ploy to get Brooke back. And I agree with Ridge somewhat. Then Brooke puts it all out there. Finally. She says, although she may not be happy with some of Ridge's behavior lately, he is her husband and her soulmate. And their marriage is going to last. Then Ridge asks Bill to please respect their marriage. And if he can do that, then they can put the past behind them and try to get along for their families. And then Brooke does tell Bill that they need to get along for Kelly's sake because they're her grandfathers. And that she truly believes that he has changed. But that he has to change for himself, not for her. And lastly, that they have to put their kids first. Period. Surprisingly, Bill took this way better than I expected. He told Brooke that he understands and he hears her loud and clear. Then he grabs his jacket and he leaves without another word. Finally, Brooke told Bill, enough is enough. Respect my marriage. And for once, put your kids first. You could tell that this made Ridge really happy too. I wish she would have said, Bill, for crying out loud, please stop going after married women because it's not a good look for you. It is not a good look. But, we can't have everything. This whole time, the storyline with Bill trying to get Brooke back and trying to steal her from Ridge and all of these things. I know there's a lot of fans out there that love Brooke and Bill together. Honestly, my point in this is that if you're married and you're in love with your husband, you need to stand up and say, you cannot kiss me. You cannot flirt with me. You cannot tell me things that are inappropriate. You cannot do this because I'm married and I respect my marriage and you need to do the same thing. I have been waiting this whole time, like for months, for her to say something. Because if she doesn't feel that way, then fine, break up with Ridge and go back to Bill. But stand up and say, because really it wasn't fair to Ridge, to be honest. So I'm glad that this whole conversation happened. Brooke leaves and she tells Ridge that she is going to check on Hope. So Brooke goes out to the cabin to check on Hope and Liam. We learn that Liam has stepped out for a little bit because Hope insisted. I assume she insisted on him going to see Kelly. Of course, I don't know that yet, but that's what I assume. So Hope admits to her mom that she can't sleep. And she starts crying again and says that this may sound totally crazy. And Brooke might think that she's lost it. But she feels like Beth is not really gone. She feels like she can still feel her. Oh my gosh, I'm like, this poor girl. It's like a mother's intuition, right? That's what I'm thinking. Because I don't think that Beth is dead. I really don't. Now we head over to Reese's apartment with Reese and Taylor. Reese seems like he is truly traumatized. He appears to be devastated over what's happened. And FYI, guys, I think he is traumatized by the death of the mystery woman's baby, not Hope's baby. And that's just my opinion. I think he went through something very traumatic with this mysterious woman and her baby. And I think his trauma is guilt and also what he went through with her. I don't think it has anything to do with Hope's baby, to be honest. But now that's just my opinion, so I don't know for sure. Taylor insists that Reese tell her everything that happened so that he can heal. She says it will help him heal. So he does. He tells her the same story that he's told everyone since it happened. And of course, Taylor feels horrible for him. She assures him that she will be there for him and that it is not his fault. Then strangely, Reese changes the subject. And he tells her how much he cares for her and that there's a whole nother reason he called her over. And before he says anything else, Taylor does tell him that she is not really ready for a serious relationship. And he says, well, I actually called you for another reason. And then he goes into his bedroom and he comes out with a baby. And immediately, I'm like, that's Hope's baby. That is Beth. I seriously want to punch Reese in the face. How could someone be so cruel? Wow, I just don't get it. So, of course, Taylor reacts like any normal person would, and she immediately asked him, where did he get a baby from? And why on earth does he have a baby hidden in his bedroom? And in true soap fashion, that's how Friday ends on a cliffhanger. I am sorry, guys, but this is just weird. Okay? The whole thing is weird. I don't like it. I can already see that multiple people are going to be destroyed by this guy's actions. It is crazy. Alright, so let's break this down. Everyone is devastated by the death of Beth, especially Hope and Liam. I'm 99.9% positive that Reese stole their baby. And he is going to try and sell it to Steffi. Steffi, of course, will adopt the baby because she's a good person and she will feel sorry for it. Or her. I assume it's a her. Brooke is not letting this whole thing go so easily. And I hope she doesn't. I hope she keeps digging for the truth. Ridge, Brooke, and Bill seem to have come to an understanding. But how long will that really last? Because we all know Bill is not one to give up on something that he wants. We've learned that the hard way multiple times. So that brings us to the end of the episode. Please get in touch with me because I really want to know what you guys think. Am I the only one who absolutely hates the storyline? I want to give a shout out to MK. You know who you are. I'm dying to know what you think about this storyline. So get in touch. You can contact me at theboldandbeautifulpodcast.com. If you enjoyed the show, please give me a 5-star rating on whatever directory you get your podcast from. It helps the show to be seen by more people. I want to thank everyone for listening every week and for showing your support. It means the world to me. I hope you guys have a great week this week. I will be back in your ears next week. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, bye guys.